Hey, it's your girl Jeray Speaks, and welcome to today's episode of Mend the Vow podcast. I am here to help you grow, persevere by sharing my triumphs and my struggles in life, both before and after the vow. A lot of times we choose to eliminate things from our story because we don't want to see the dirtiness inside of us after God has refined us. But we don't want others to see us that way either. So I am here to be your big sister, your auntie, your niece, your friend, anything that I can be to hold your hand as I filter through life in these mini episodes to let you know that you are not alone and that God is here with you. So grab your favorite cup of beverage, whatever that may be. Mine is coffee. Grab a notepad and something to write with, whether it be a pen, pencil, or on your iPad or on your Google Chromebook that has a pen, whatever you are notating from. Make sure that you bring you wisdom, knowledge that is from God so that you can hear everything that God has for you. Let's get into today's episode of Mend the Vow podcast. Hey, it's your girl Jeray Speaks, and welcome to another episode of Mend the Vow podcast. Today we're going to be talking about communication and team building. And oh my God, do I have a story for you guys. It's kind of personal, and we are working through it corporately at work. Now, there has been some shifts in things at work. And for a lot of you that have been following me, you know that my career path have changed. I went from just working my full-time business to going back to my career. And then after I lost my mother, it was time for me to get back and, start feeding my passion again. And so I literally was going through some things at the office. And it really brought me to a place in my spirit to where I was like, we're not functioning correctly. And I remember speaking to someone about that, and they were like really nonchalant about it. But it was really something that was hindering our team. And so I sat down with the direct person in charge of our team and spoke with them, and nothing was resolved. So I got to the point where I really was fed up because this has been happening for a while. And before I drown in the cesspool of stuff, I will remove myself. And so I literally remember about maybe a month or so ago going to HR and telling them I quit. And they literally looked at me and was like, "No, what's going on?" And I said, "Well, there's a lack of communication in my department. And I've talked to, the key people, and they feel like nothing can be done." And so, you know, they were like, "Okay, well, no, take the rest of the day off. You're not gonna leave. We consider you a very valuable person to this company." Now, although I appreciate those kind words, that was not going to eradicate the situation, make it go away, make it disappear, or make it better. I was literally fed up. Now, let me give you a backstory as to why. So, when I came into the company, I came in not expecting to come in and clean up a massive caseload. And then, honestly, just being really not trained properly about the systems. I understand people get busy. I understand, you got to meet your quota on certain things, but I said, "Oh my goodness." And when I literally just start thinking about from where I started to now, it kind of repeated itself because whoever held the position before me really wasn't doing their job correctly. They were just doing any and everything. So, I know how to do systems very correctly because I build them and I work in them in my own company. But that is not the same when you are working for an immensely large nonprofit corporation. Nonprofit people really do their things different because they have a whole slew of people to work on them. Where I am in my business is just an army of one, right? So I don't have to communicate right now with anyone. But I learned from this situation because even when I build my own team, it's going to be significant that communication is key and is refined on a consistent basis. So, the moment that the vice president of the company found out that I wanted to quit, her and HR put me into the office and she said, "Freely talk. What's going on?" And I didn't expect that. Now, there were a lot of things that I didn't like, but I kept it solely on what I was concerned about. I didn't nitpick about any and everything. The one thing that I was concerned about was communication amongst our team. And she said, "Okay." She said, "What else?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "That's the main thing that I think we need to build up." And so it brings us to this point in the podcast. I'm going to go over some stuff that we are doing as a team to really combat the elephant in the room where it comes to the drag of our communication. And also, I'm going to give you some tips and some resources where if you ever experience this in the workplace or in your business or just generally in life itself, you'll know how to advocate for yourself while still remaining professional and while really getting down to the nitty gritty of what is to be expected. So, when you go through life, when you go through just different things, you'll learn how to navigate through communication. So, when I first started at my job, as I said earlier, I had to work on a big caseload. And for me, that's not surprising. I mean, I literally can get through anything when it comes to work, but as the time and the dates and the weeks went by, I began to just work the system and really learn it. And I really grew close in communication with my higher up. And when things just started to get really, really busy, there were no more meetings structured. There were no just check-ins because what we deal with on a consistent basis is literally inner city kids, coaching them, either sending them to behavioral health or just really, doing different programs to where we can meet their needs. And me as a career coach and a recruiter for the state of Illinois, I have a massive caseload. It's not just finding them employment, but it's really case managing them, meeting with them in person, also virtually, also within different trainings that we do on a biweekly basis, going to do checkups on their work site, making sure that the flow is easy for them, making sure that they are working the program. And we do give them incentives. And so with that, there's just a lot of stuff added in the place and the need for my job. And so I know that we were supposed to have, meetings and then they didn't happen. And then we were supposed to do all type of stuff and that never happened. And so I literally got frustrated. And in that frustration, I found myself growing apart from the company, growing apart from my career, growing apart from just stuff. And a lot of people, before you guys ask, well, why were you growing apart? How come you just didn't stand up for yourself? How come you just didn't do yada, yada, yada? I did, and it went nowhere. And then some of you might think, well, how come you just didn't keep your eyes on the focus of stuff that you were supposed to do? I did, but my higher up is responsible for some of the key points of getting the necessary things in place in order to put the children in the job functions. I know it may seem like I'm all over the place, but I'm going to fill you guys in. So, I am in care of young adults and youth, well, youth and young adults from the ages of 16 and 24. And with that, my responsibility is to coach them, to case manage them, to provide resources, to put in requisitions for either clothing for their interviews or if they need bus cards or gas cards, just a lot of stuff woven in. But when it comes to the dynamic of really getting them hired on, we need jobs. Although I can put them in jobs, but if we have no jobs or partners at that time to put them in there, and I'm told, hey, tell such and such we have this job opportunity, and I call them and then I coach them, even if they have like job readiness exhaustion, or if they don't have the willingness to comply with on the job orientation or commitment to policy. I coach them through that because right now, I'm just going to insert this in here. A lot of the youth are facing some tumultuous things. Their mental health is bad. um they're self-medicating themselves with different drugs and different alcohols and downers and uppers and everything like that, and they just have different conversations with me, and I thank God that they're free to do that and to trust the process of what I'm giving them, right, as far as their career coach. Now I say all this to say, when we didn't have any flow of jobs coming in for the children, I advocated for them because we had this one partnership in town, and I was getting somebody else in on their crew. And at the same time, I was advocating for some other children, asking, well, do you guys have any more employment? Can we get somebody else in there? And they were like, well, we have these other sister companies, and I can give you the information. We need these job slots to be filled. So, okay, I was proud about that to hear that. So, I carry on, wrap up the meeting that I was doing there, and I take the information concerning the 8 jobs back to work, refer them to my higher up, and in hindsight, it seemed like they were excited, but then things just set on the table. But set on the table, but then gave me instructions of who was to go into these particular positions. And as I was given these instructions, I'm calling the candidates that I know to be on the approval list for these positions. So I'm talking to my higher up. I said, well, if you feel like such and such is good for this role, then she needs some prepping because she has some communication issues, and she gets real testy when it comes to listening to people. So I said I would need to go see her. And she, was in agreement with that. Okay, so after I did my due diligence with meeting with one of my participants, and we really got some things in place, what not to do, what to do while on this new job opportunity, we really had to dive into some comfortable and uncomfortable conversations, such as adherence to knowing what is appropriate to saying, your tone at work, not getting frustrated, not being dismissive when somebody tells you something, and being in accordance to knowing how to advocate for yourself without being disrespectful. And so we crossed those lines, we dotted all the T's, and we put periods on all the I's. And so I'm like, okay, you can start soon, and this is capping off our agreement, and we were okay. So the jobs were not still moving; they were sitting on my higher ups desk, and I was just so agitated, like saying to myself, "How come you are so slowful with really placing them in these areas of employment?" And to speed it up, because it's a long it's a long story, and I might insert some more stories like this, particularly in the communication and team building, into like a blog post. It would be very lengthy. I can't do it all in one podcast because you guys will be here forever. So getting back to the story, what happened in a nutshell is that I got agitated, and as I said it in the beginning of this episode, I was so frustrated to where I was like, "Okay, I quit because I've talked to you, um, and there is no sense of responsibility when it comes here." She's always trying to cover up, you know, her behind when we get around other higher ups. She'll say one thing, and then when we get around other people, it's like, oh, no, don't do this and don't do that. And I'm just like, well, you just said do this. And so I adhere to it because, it's a part of the job. But I'm just like, I'm not going to allow for myself. all of this confusion, all of this back and forth, all of this not taking an account of what your role is supposed to do. And so I spoke to my favorite coworker and I told her, I said, she knew everything from point A to point B. I said, I'm not gonna be here anymore because I said, I am not gonna mishandle anything. I said, I'm not going to not fully not do my job. And I said, everything hinges off of whether she is going to place these kids inside of the jobs that we agreed to. Now, days went on, the participants are calling, hey, Miss Black, I thought we were going to get these jobs. I'm all like, yeah, but we got to wait on such and such. And it's like, it's unnerving to them because, for one, they're already stressful about paying their rent, being on time, paying for daycare, paying for school, paying their, for their basic necessities in life. And I didn't have another answer for them. And automatically, boom, they blocked me. One, we have a work computer and a work phone aside from our personal phones and computers. And that did something to me because I was building up a rapport with these young people. And I said, you know what? Let me advocate for myself. I'm out of here. And so, getting back to the point where the higher ups talked to me also on HR, they said, please give us a chance to rectify this because we really value you as an employee. You have so much potential. That didn't get me. I appreciate the kind words. It's just, this is not being communicated, and we are not working together in our communication, and it's causing a rift of the things that are supposed to cohesively flow together. And so um they took all that in. They said, okay, we're going to do something about it. And the higher up said, we're all going to come into a space and we're going to talk and lay everything on the table, and we're going to make some different type of rules so this does not happen again. I said, okay. So with that, maybe about a week or so went by and we were all called into a space to eat. They bought us lunch and then we sat with two amazing communicators that runs this other nonprofit. Um, and they specialize in team building and communication. And we had to sit around these chairs and we had to talk about, life and work and how to balance and, communication. And, things got pretty intense, and we had to say what affected the communication and what would be the solution. And we begin to really see that it could come together, and that in team building, in communication, you're going to have disagreements, I know, like, but everybody has to take accountability. One thing I can say about my higher up is that nothing has improved. Um, and I'm just honest, nothing has improved. And it's like there's there's such this disdain feeling about, I'm just here for the check, and I'm above you, so I don't have to do all this work, which that's not the case. You're supposed to learn programs, you're supposed to learn stuff. So if we ever are not there, or if we are in need of help, if we run into like a flaw, if we run into some type of thing that we can't answer, you're supposed to know this higher than what we are. And so it's like, in the 2 hour talk time, there was just these things that were coming from her. And it kind of made me look at her in a different way, not giving her an excuse. But when people are stressed, um, there's a lot of things that can come into the workplace. And as I was thinking about these things last week, when me and my coworker met, I was just talking, and I said, I have to get over placing my ability of what she's not doing to affect what I am not doing. And she was all like, I wanted to tell you that. She said, because I get mad at some stuff too. She said, when I first got here, I felt overlooked. I felt like I was just thrown into this circus ring of, picking up somebody else's mess from what they didn't do right in this role. And I agreed. And I said, my focus is just to do a well job and not well enough, but a well job. To advocate for these children, to advocate for these young adults. And I began to just wrap my head around what does it look like to communicate with somebody that's not really communicating with you? And I had to set the tone for myself moving forward. One thing that I'm not going to do, I'm not going to allow the decisions that my higher up makes or not make affect my potential in my career. Two, I'm not going to allow anything that my higher up does to disrupt the flow of my day. It's that serious because what I need from that person, if it's not given, then I would just have to take the proper protocol and send it up to the change of commands so that it can flow better. I have the authority to do that, and they gave me the authority to do that. And I want to say this for anybody that feels challenged and says, well, why you guys can't communicate? It takes two to communicate in life and also in personal and also in business. It affects how your team operates. And so what I learned from her is that she may be going through a lot, like I said, not making up any excuses as to why she's not doing her job. But what hit me is to show more grace, right? Because I don't know what she's going through. She shared a little bit, and I'm not going to share that because it's personal, and I respect people's privacy. But what I learned in that moment is she's not a horrible person just because she is not doing her job right now. She's not a dumb person. This lady is intelligent. She might just be hitting a hard path in life right now because she kept on saying something over and over again. And I heard her. And I said, you know what? From this moment on, as long as I do my job and I make a change and it affects somebody in a positive way, that's what I'm here for. Now, my one thing that I can do for her is pray that God will release anything that is weighing her down because I care about the team. She's not a horrible person. It's just we bumped heads in communicating. And that kind of really set us back